From the 600 ESPN El Paso River Oaks Property Schoolyard Sports Studio, here's Steve Kaplowitz and Adrian Broadus.
All right, welcome back, everybody, as we get going here on a Wednesday afternoon. Happy Wednesday to all of you, along with Alberto Dueta, who's hanging for Adrian today. Adrian gets the day off after a late night last night on Minor Talk, which apparently doesn't keep Alberto away because he was part of that show along with Sal and I think you might have also had a little. Did you have Zay with you last night too?
Yeah, Zay was there. Jorge Guajardo was there.
Good Lord, you had like a party going.
Sal Galindo was there.
Really?
I
mean, Zay Galindo?
Yeah, Zay Galindo.
I was like, Zay's got a brother named Sal? I didn't even know what that was.
Maybe. And Chris from Inspoland. So yeah, it was definitely a full house. It was live on YouTube, live on Twitter, and live on 600 ESPN El Paso. Yeah, it was definitely a fun one. You had a great carousel of callers. I liked it.
Yeah, I listened. I thought it was fascinating after the 14-10 loss yesterday, which, let's be honest, I mean, that game was in UTEP's breadbasket. They played so well defensively. You know, it's one of those games where you hate to see them lose because they played so well on the defensive side of the ball. I think that was the key. In this game, everybody's going to remember the play that Skylar Locklear got injured. Without a doubt, it was one of the dirtier hits you will see in college football. When a defensive player launches themselves at a football player, especially a quarterback, who was defenseless. Remember, Skylar had just thrown the ball, meaning his whole body was vulnerable. And when that defensive player connected with him, I would be surprised if Conference USA does not end up suspending the Louisiana Tech player for the hit, because that was about as vicious a targeting hit as you will see these days in football. And some will say, well, it wasn't helmet to helmet. Look, when you launch yourself at a defenseless player, at the quarterback spot especially, I mean, that and you could see that was just leading to a potential injury, knocking him out of the game. And who knows? You got to do something. You can't just call a targeting foul and kick him out of the game. I'm interested to see if the league decides to rule on any other kind of punishment.
Yeah, I think that it would be, in my opinion, to be fair to perhaps end the season. I don't think that the hit has any place in the game of football, and it'll probably be the dirtiest hit in all of Conference USA, even though there's still a lot of games left to play. And, yeah, definitely a credit to Skylar Locklear for collecting himself and able to exit the field under his own power. I was extremely surprised to see that, but it's definitely disappointing when you see that type of play. Especially when it hurts your player.
No doubt. And by the way, you know what else was weird about that game? So how about this? UTEP is now 1-7, right? So any dreams of going to a postseason, even though they had to play Tennessee, by the way, just to let you in on that. But now that it's officially gone, how about that? The same day that UTEP's eliminated from bowl contention, Sam Houston State is now bowl eligible. How wild is that? They've only been in FBS for 2 seasons, and they are already bowl eligible in season number 2.
Yeah, but they've been trending upward, right? They haven't been at the low levels of whatever collegiate league they've been in. I'll remind folks, I know they maybe didn't know this, but I was in Houston during this time. But in the FCS level, Sam Houston was competing for the national championship not too long ago before they made that transition to FBS. So they're definitely trending upward, and yeah, it's extremely sour for the Miners.
They were 3-9 last year. I mean, trending upward. Win football team in their year 1. So they have had a remarkable turnaround. Forget trending upward. It's one of the great stories of college football this year that they could go from 3-9 in season number 1 to what are they, 6-1 already right now?
Definitely. I know what you mean when you say that they're not trending upward because of where they started last year, but I think that they were in a lot of games last year. They almost beat the Miners. The Miners almost lost to them. So I think that their competitiveness has always been there since last year, and that level of football has been there. Just sometimes games don't go your way. What I'm saying is, when was the last time the Miners might not win 3 games this season?
No, that's true.
And that's what
especially
I'm saying.
Especially now. I mean, look, and that's another. Let's bring that up for a second, okay? So Locklear gets hurt. They could have gone with Shea Smith, but they went with J.P. Pickles, which, by the way, I'm fine. I mean, look, these were both highly regarded quarterbacks they brought in. We already know what Shea Smith can do from his high school days here at Franklin. Pickles was a guy that came pretty highly regarded from the state of Florida. So, I mean, to me, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. We got to see what each of these guys can do anyway. We haven't really given Shea a chance to truly quarterback this team, and as far as I'm concerned, they didn't give JP a chance either. Let the kid throw the football, for crying out loud. When you're so one-dimensional for the first couple series, where all you're doing is running, and everybody knows. Look, you thought Dana Dimmel was predictable? How about this offense? I mean, you know exactly what they're going to do. And then in their final 2 plays, they throw the ball. And they nearly got the first down on the last play, which drives you crazy because then you say to yourself, how did you not let Pickles throw the football? How do you stay so conservative like that? I get it. He's a freshman. He has no game experience. Well, you know what? You're 1-6. So let's throw the kid out, throw some passes, and let's see what happens. And if it doesn't work, all right, fine, you gave it a chance. But I'd rather see that when the game is on the line than just trying the uber conservative run approach, hoping that you can run the football enough to either kick a field goal or score a touchdown. That is difficult. Look, you got all these receivers on the team. Use them. Don't leave. God, it drove me nuts. So that was the only thing that I was really bummed about last night is then I start to wonder, can anybody throw the football on this team not named Caden McConnell? I mean, they've got 3 of them right now. Skyler only, I think, attempted, 9 passes and completed 6 of them. So he didn't throw that much. And really, his whole stats were padded by that 60-yard catch and run from Thomas. So other than that, they really didn't throw the ball much before Skyler got hurt. Pickles didn't throw the ball. And I keep thinking to myself, look, Scotty Walden arrived as a progressive offensive coach who can move the ball up and down the field and call a play every 10 to 12 seconds. Yet, why does it seem like things are so conservative where they're afraid to throw? Look, if you get picked off, you get picked off. But you can't go with the same thing time after time since everybody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what's going to sting moving forward. It's knowing that you had every opportunity to win that game, and I said that on Minor Talk. And you go out there, you get a touchdown, and then you stop throwing the ball forward. Yeah, you lose your quarterback, but look. Following the touchdown, you have 2 straight drives that combine for 1 yard. You have 2 straight 3-and-outs. You combine for 1 yard following your touchdown. And then you close out the half with 25 plays that combine for 66 yards. And 50 of those yards came on that last drive where you come away with a missed field goal and no points. Throw the ball. Put yourself in a position to win the game. But even the 47-yard touchdown was a little short pass that Thomas took to the house for the score. I mean, you think about this. They don't throw downfield at all for the most part, and that's what's so difficult. Every little pass is like little short passes that go for a couple of yards at a time. I'm just saying, man, come on. They got to have a downfield offense. Anyway, listen. It doesn't matter. It's water under the bridge. They're now 1-7. Maybe they'll win a few games before the end of the year, but chances are they won't. They got freshman quarterbacks who have no experience, and that's another thing, okay? The only experience they had going into this season was Cade, and he played 6 games last year. So the danger of going into a football season with a bunch of players that have never played college football before is injuries. What happens if they all get hurt? Well, here's your answer. We now know what's going to happen. I hope Skyler's back for the Middle Tennessee game, but we don't know yet. We don't know how he's going to handle that post-concussion syndrome and what's going to happen there. So if you got to roll with Pickles or Shea Smith, just give him the keys to the car and let him hit the accelerator a little bit. Let him try to get the gas and not just try to be so conservative. You're driving 30 miles an hour in a 60 mile an hour freeway or 70 mile an hour freeway. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I don't think that gives you an opportunity to win, but if that's what you want to do, be my guest. I think that whatever you do, go all in on it. If you're going to let someone throw, let them throw all over the field, to the middle, to the sides, to deep down the field, all over the place, because that's exciting football. What you're doing right now isn't exciting football. And if you're just going to have a bunch of quarterbacks that are going to run, well, then make it a triple option. Run the wildcat. Put everyone behind the line of scrimmage, behind your offensive line, and make it a little bit cooler. Make it something like, oh, we no longer pass the ball ever. Remember when the Patriots played that game last year when they passed the ball about 2 times? Make that your offense, and that'll be a little bit better than what it is now, because then people won't be expecting passes. They'll know, oh no, we don't do that anymore. We just run. By
the way, J.J. Clark, hats off to you. What a job you're doing with this defense.
Keeping us in games.
100%. 100%. Look, UTEP should have won that game yesterday.
Exactly.
They led for most of the game. I mean, that's what's also tough to swallow from last night is, you know what? They deserve to win that game on the defensive side of the ball. And, yeah, that's tough. It really, really is tough. Listen, I'd like to see Skyler throw the football more downfield when he's quarterback. I really would. And you know what? They haven't really given him the opportunities to do that. And if he can't complete a pass, fine. At least we've seen what he can do. Like, I feel like for the most part, Skyler's offense has been very limited too. Little short passes, run the ball. And that's really been it. So I like to see if Skyler can throw the ball downfield, just like I like to see if J.P. Pickles can throw the ball downfield and Shea Smith when he's given his chance. Let's see if any of these quarterbacks have an opportunity to possibly earn a role next season. I mean, what you have right now, you've got what? You've got 5 weeks of audition time left for this football team. So as far as I'm concerned, season's over. It's 1-7. Let's see now what the kids can do, and let's see if there is some hope at that position for next season other than McConnell, who's going to be coming off of the season-ending surgery here.
Yeah, and I'll remind the coaching staff, the city, the fan base that even if any quarterback shows a lot of potential, another school can come and offer him money and he can leave. And that can be just gone in the wind as everything else has been. So I'll just remind folks that yesterday was kind of one of those situations where you had every opportunity to win, like we've said, but also you had nothing to lose and everything to win. And you didn't go out there and gamble big, didn't go out there to try to win the game at all costs. And that's what was really frustrating to watch, watching you not try to go out there, make yourself a competitive team, and you lost this game. They didn't beat you. You beat yourself. That was what it really felt like.
Again, if you missed any of Minor Talk, it's already up right now. The podcast is up for all of our 600 ESPN El Paso shows on demand or archived for us. You could check it out last night. It was a good show. And by the way, one other thing, I got to bring this up. Or I'll save it. Maybe I'll save it for after Jay Jaffe when he joins us next to give us our World Series preview. Because I have one more take on the Locklear injury that I want to bring up, because that's also something that bothered me from last night. So I'll talk about that as well a little bit later in the show. We're with you for 3 full hours today. In fact, we got a great program. Jay's going to join us next. He'll give us his World Series preview, and it'll also reflect on the death of Fernando Valenzuela. So that's going to be something we'll talk about next. Then at 5 o'clock, Bernie Olivas is going to join us for our Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl watch with a very special guest picker. And after that, at 6, we'll have Michael Levy from UTEP Athletics talking about a big NIL event that they're planning here in a couple of weeks, followed by Lane Frank and Schoolyard Sports for our weekly chat. So, as you might imagine, we got a lot to talk about today. 505-6009. But first, let's get to Charlie 1 for traffic. Then we'll come back with Jay, and we'll talk a little World Series preview. Back here on Sports Talk as we continue 20 now past the hour. Excited about our next guest who joins us each and every week to talk baseball. And when you're talking about the Fall Classic, it doesn't get any bigger than a pair of teams that haven't met up in the last 43 years. Talking about the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers. And here to talk a little bit about the series with us and offer up his thoughts is the one and only Jay Jaffe. Jay, welcome back. I wish we could just dig right in, but before we talk about the clash of the Titans, we've got to talk about the news that rocked the world last night, and that is the passing of one of the greats for Dodger fans. In fact, the last time these two teams met in the World Series, Fernando Mania was the biggest thing in baseball, and we found out last night we lost Fernando Valenzuela at the age of 63.
Yeah, it was sad news. Unfortunately, it was not quite a surprise. He had left his role as a Dodgers Spanish-language broadcaster in late September, and a few days later, the team announced that he had entered the hospital to deal with some health stuff, and that his family was requesting privacy. We'd seen pictures of a fairly gaunt-looking Fernando this year, and it wasn't hard to put two and two together and realize that something must be pretty wrong.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And yet, somebody that when you kind of look at his body of work, Jay, and really, how his whole career ended up, he's someone who will always fall short of Cooperstown. We know that because his career, wins above replacement, and his 7-year peak average was just not good enough. But he's a 6-time All-Star. He won a World Series. He was a Rookie of the Year winner. He was a Cy Young Award winner. He won the Gold Glove. Here, and he was even a 2-time Silver Slugger winner. There's a lot to like about Fernando Valenzuela, even if he'll never end up in Cooperstown.
Yeah, I don't think that's the yardstick we need to measure him by. He was more than just a great pitcher who the Dodgers, quite frankly, kind of pitched his arm off during that first run with the team. He was an international ambassador for baseball. He was a cultural icon. The Dodgers had never had a Mexican American star for them, and when he came to them, when they discovered him at pitching in Mexico and saw what he could do, they thought, wow, this could be a real breakthrough for us, because they really, I think, had struggled to reach that fan base because of the circumstances under which their ballpark was built. It cleared out barrio and displaced Mexican American families, and it was kind of Dodger Stadium's original sin. But he drew Mexican and Mexican American fans and Latin American fans from all countries to the Dodgers, and it's something that continues to resonate today. They are, it helped make them into an internationally popular team, and we see it now with Japan, and Otani and Yamamoto, and going back before that, Hideo Nomo. It just expanded the reach of the Dodgers brand, and Fernando was just such an icon. He carried himself so well. He, his playing career and then his service to the team, 22 years in that broadcaster role. Just a pillar of the community and somebody who was just beloved. I was so happy that they retired his jersey number last year. It was such a long overdue honor, and something that they usually reserved only for Hall of Famers, but they made an exception for him, and it was the right move.
Oh, no doubt about it. Not to mention, his signature pitch is something that, sadly, you don't see anymore in Major League Baseball. Nobody throws a screwball anymore. But when he perfected that pitch in the early 80s, when he came up with the Dodgers, it was the most unhittable pitch out there.
Yeah, it wasn't something that batters were used to facing. And on the advice of Carl Hubble, who taught Fernando's mentor, Bobby Castillo, he learned to throw a fast screwball and a slow screwball. And so he could change speeds with the pitch, and it just made it that much more effective that he could keep hitters off balance.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. Will you be writing a piece on Fernando in the coming days for Fangraphs?
Yeah, I'm aiming for Friday. Don't want to rush this thing. I've written about him a couple times in recent years, so I have a lot of material to work with. But want to do this right. Unfortunately, not the first of these that I've done this fall. Getting back to the World Series, I was thinking, I just wrote about Luis Tiant's passing, and Fernando's signature in the 1981 World Series was a 147-pitch complete game over which he allowed 9 hits and 7 walks in a game that the Dodgers needed to win because they were down 2-0. And really, it struck me when I was writing about Tiant that it was very similar to his Game 4 start in that 1975 World Series when he threw something like 155 or 160 pitches, in a pretty gnarly complete game that basically he just outlasted the Reds and refused to break. And difference was Tiant was a wily veteran of 34 years. Fernando was a 20-year-old, and just to be able to summon that grit was amazing.
Well, you summed it up also really well when you talked about just how guys threw back in those years and how managers allowed pitchers to throw 130, 140, 160 pitches. I mean, that was the norm for the longest period of time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, geez, I didn't even fit it into my Tiant tribute, but there was a game where Tiant and Nolan Ryan went like 12 innings, and Ryan threw something like 225 pitches, and Tiant threw something in the 150s. But yeah, you look at the way the Dodgers handled Fernando and Oral Hershiser and Ramon Martinez. I mean, there were just a lot of high pitch count games, and those guys' arms just didn't hold up. And I've long had the theory that if the Dodgers hadn't traded Pedro Martinez, Tommy Lasorda probably would have broken him pretty quickly too. So,
yep.
It may be for the best that they missed out on him, given Lasorda's track record. I mean, they got a lot out of those guys, and with Fernando and with Oral Hershiser, they won championships that I don't think they would have traded the world for. But it did have a long-term impact on their careers, and perhaps prevented them from attaining even greater heights.
Jay Jaffe with us here on Sports Talk as we continue. This comes from one of our listeners, our regulars, Joe Rodriguez. Joe Rod, he wants to know, hey, Jay, what are the odds that the Dodgers will once again succumb to the law of averages after another stellar regular season in the Fall Classic that has been the case in the recent past and choke? Hashtag I hate LA. So there we go. That comes from a Dodger hater. He wants to know, what do you think the chances are that the Dodgers will have their great postseason and regular season run end at the hands of the Yankees?
Well, Joe, let's think about this for a minute. I didn't see the Dodgers choking in the 2 series they played. I think they had kind of a rough go in some of the games, but they bounced back over and over again. They basically made the World Series with half a rotation. They're not exactly flush with reliable starters. You look back at the 2020 World Series, they won 4 rounds. They made it all the way to the World Series. Yeah, they've got knocked out a couple times since then. This is a different team, though. I think that they are. They've done a hell of a lot of work to get to this point. I think they would tell you that they're looking at this differently than in their recent trips to the playoffs. They've beaten some very good teams. They're facing a very good Yankees team. Both of those teams have their flaws, I think. I wouldn't call either of these teams at this point chokers if they lost the World Series. It takes a hell of a lot to get to the World Series, and it doesn't. I think a fan who's sitting around thinking that these guys are chokers is probably not the most enlightened fan, somebody who doesn't really understand what it takes to win a championship.
Jay, he hates the Dodgers. Come on now. You know that. That's what that whole thing boils down to. That is spoken like a true Dodger hater.
I'm telling him his hatred isn't enough to be right about this.
Well,
so,
and yes.
There you go.
And by the way, when you stack these two teams up, because I was talking to a good buddy of mine who's a diehard Yankees fan and has been for his whole life, and he said, you know what? He goes, the Yankees are so unpredictable. I could see them getting swept. I could see them sweeping. Like, you just don't know what to expect from them either, because they've also had kind of a wild ride this regular season in playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they've been strong in the playoffs though, for the most part. I mean, they beat they didn't get pushed to a deciding game in either of their series. 4-1 in the ALCS, 3-1 in the division series. They've had a couple off games. I mean, the game that they lost to Cleveland was a thriller where they looked like they had pulled it out. They had their rough stretches in the middle of the season. They were pretty banged up. They're in better shape now, particularly with Gleyber Torres hitting well at the top of the lineup, and Garrett Cole back in some reasonable form. Luis Heel back in reasonable form. They figured out their bullpen for the most part. They're a very good team, and look, in a 7-game series, anything can happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers win. I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees win.
Yep, but at the same time,
I think it's going to come down to whether the depth of the Yankees' rotation can help them avoid their bullpen getting overexposed, because to me that's the thing that I think where the Dodgers are most vulnerable, and the Yankees kind of share that vulnerability. We saw Weaver and Holmes get hit when they were flagging a little bit in that Cleveland series.
But you know what's interesting about these two teams, Jay, offensively anyway? The Dodgers seem to be pretty complete from 1 to 9, where the Yankees have their troubles in the bottom of the order. So they're so top-heavy, and they're so good at the top to the middle of their lineup that often it's enough to carry them through. But the Dodgers just seem like they can beat you any possible way from number 1 all the way down to 9.
Yeah, I think that they are a deeper lineup. Even with their injuries right now, Freddie Freeman isn't going to be 100% for this series. Playing on that ankle, it's been kind of painful to watch. Yankees have something of an analog in Anthony Rizzo playing through some broken fingers. But the Dodgers do have that depth in the lineup. I mean, when you've got like a Max Muncy hitting 6th or 7th and able to put the ball over the wall like he did, or reel off an on-base streak like he did, was it 12 times in a row, something like that? I mean, just amazing. Will Smith struggled early in the playoffs, but has hit a couple big homers for them. They've got a lot of weapons, and probably more weapons than the Yankees. But Aaron Judge is coming off the best season ever for a right-handed hitter by our rate stat, WDarcy Plus, and Juan Soto is pretty darn good as well.
Jay held a chat yesterday at Fangraphs.com. He also had a good one earlier on. It's called Winning Ugly, a look at this year's postseason starting pitching, not to mention Clash of the Titans. Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge head to the World Series. And I guess that's really what when you think about this, not just the history of these two teams, the fact that they haven't played in 43 years, the fact that they're both on opposite coasts, and they have huge fan bases that are all over the country. But let's look at it that way. You said it best. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, two of the biggest names of the game, polarizing players. They're both getting an opportunity for the first time in their respective careers, Jay, to showcase their talents on the biggest stage.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I mean, I think this is probably the series that Major League Baseball was dreaming of, and these incredibly marketable stars having them on the mound. I mean, this is going to be probably the most viewed World Series ever internationally because of the Ohtani and Yamamoto factor. I don't think it would have had quite the world impact if it was just another Subway Series between the Mets and Yankees, although certainly would have been fun for us here in New York.
That's true. By the way, which takes me to my next question. All right, I've already heard that tickets on the secondary market are going for $1,500 upstairs. That's like the buy-in prices to get in. Because you were a Yankee season ticket holder sharing seats with buddies, do you get the opportunity to buy in as a ticket holder to the series?
Our ticket group got 2 tickets. I got 2 friends who were going. I'll be in the press box for the Yankees games. So I was able to simplify the problem of
Yes.
which of our foursome gets the tickets by opting out of that particular debate.
Now, by the way, let me ask you this: does that mean you get 2 tickets to each home game, or just one game?
I'll be in the press box. Oh no, just one home game.
Okay, so that's how I was going to wonder. So
yeah,
you got
so there'll be. I think there'll be a game 4. I think there's a possibility my wife will be at game 4 as well.
Nice.
We've got somebody within her company at The Athletic has offered her tickets, but right now it's a matter of finding the right babysitter.
And by the way, this is also another important stat, okay? How big on the landscape is Fangraphs? Big enough where Jay Jaffe is credentialed as working media for the World Series. Sometimes these big clubs will say, you know what, you can come during the regular season, but then we start tightening it up a little bit because everybody wants to come in and cover the World Series because we know what it means. Jay, it's a big deal when you've got a seat reserved for you at Yankee Stadium in the press box for the Fall Classic.
Let's just hope they don't put me out in the ox box here. I'm not going to count my chickens until they're hatched. But yes, it is nice to be credentialed. It was actually for both Yankees and Mets. I've actually had my colleague, associate editor Matt Martell, alongside me here, and that makes gathering quotes after the game a lot easier when you've got 2 people to divide and conquer. One can do the interview room, the other can do one of the clubhouses.
Nice.
Or whatever, and accumulate a lot more material for deeper reporting.
I didn't even realize that the Yankees have an ox box when it comes to excess media for these games.
Oh, I mean, I think you have to for the World Series, but the question is where. In the Mets, it's out in that dining club out in left field, that big glass area. Yankees, in the old ballpark or earlier when at Yankee Stadium, it was way out in right field in the stands. But boy, that gets a little chilly out there. I don't know. I'm not sure what the arrangement will be, but with all the Japanese media, somebody's going to get stuck out there. And the fact that I'm maybe a ballpark regular on the beat, so to speak, at least something of a regular, may work in our favor, but we'll see. I don't know.
Is this your
bigger
first
outlets than Fangraphs out there for sure?
Is this your first World Series as working media?
No, 2015 I was in the Ox Box first at Citi Field, and so was Emma, my wife. We got to cover that World Series side by side. My role was pretty small because we had probably 5 other people at Sports Illustrated, and my job was to do the instant recaps. Have something up within the first hour after the ball game ended, while everybody else got to go do their deeply reported features. But still, they could stick me in a broom closet. I'd be pretty happy if it was at the World Series.
That's right. All right, I know you've got the profile on Fernando coming up later this week, probably Friday, to Fangraphs.com. You're going to be covering the series as well for them at Yankee Stadium. You got a lot of beers to choose from this time of year. The Fall Classic is right around the corner. I know you're very partial to Threes Brewing. What beer would you like to profile for our listeners today?
Oh, this one. Okay, I got a really good one here. This was from Torch and Crown in Manhattan. It's their Verdant Hazy Pale Ale. It's a fresh hop pale ale, not an IPA, not bitter, just a wonderful complex beer with notes of peach and tangerine. I don't know what the ABV is. It's not that high, probably in the 5s. Beautiful floral design on the can, beautiful floral nose to it. I got 3 4-packs in the case that I ordered because I was like, this is going to be good. It's fresh hop season. And maybe it's a couple weeks past its peak, but it's still a great beer.
It sounds great. Give us the name of that. It says it's Verdant.
Verdant, Verdant.
It's 5.2 ABV
yeah.
for the hazy pale ale.
That sounds right.
By the way, I love the fact that nowadays we're getting hazy pale ales that are not necessarily IPAs. They don't have to be 7 or 8% ABVs, but they're still tasty. They've got all the notes and all the aromas, and seems like they're much easier to drink as session beers.
Yeah, definitely.
Enjoy yourself at the stadium. Thanks as always for the time. We'll do it again with you next week, Jay.
All right, sounds good.
Jay Jaffe, folks, from Fangraphs.com. Might have to figure out next week because the World Series is going to be being played on Wednesdays, so we'll work out arrangements and try to make sure we can get Jay sometime when he's not at the ballpark. All right, 41 past the hour. Still to come, Bernie Olivas, Lane Frank, Michael Levy from UTEP Athletics. Big show between now and 7 as Sports Talk continues. 600 ESPN El Paso. Back here on Sports Talk as we continue. 47 now past the hour. 505-6009. Let me get to King Eric. He's been waiting patiently and joins us next as we continue. King Eric, how are you? All hail the king, baby. What's going on?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you?
Doing fine, thanks, Eric.
Hey, Steve, today's kind of a little somber day for us baseball diehards, considering that last night, the great Fernando Valenzuela died.
Yep.
I mean, what to say? He was, if you were a Mexican or a Mexican-American in the 80s and you didn't know nothing about baseball, but you knew who Fernando Valenzuela was, and he brought everybody together, and it was just so great for people to just come together as one to watch this great man, this kid. He was a kid.
He was.
In his own right.
Did you know that in 1980, he was 19 years old and he pitched most of the season in the Texas League, including against the Diablos that year at Dudley Field?
That's crazy. And it's crazy because he only spent a couple weeks down there, too.
Well, now he spent most of the year in the Texas League in 80, but then he spent like the final 4 or 5 games in the Dodger bullpen as a rookie in 1980. And then in 81, that's when Fernando Mania took over. That's like he skipped AAA completely, Eric, and he just went right from AA to the big leagues late in 1980. And then in 81, he won Rookie of the Year and just took the whole baseball world by storm.
Yeah, I mean, he was opening day starter, which he didn't even know.
I know.
But he was ready for it. And, 1990, he had the no-hitter, which was just crazy. His final season with the Dodgers.
Yep, that's right.
That was insane. When I think of Fernando, I always think of my dad and my grandpa because they're all Mexican people, and they bring us together. They brought us together as a family. So I thank him for that. And
you could make the argument. You know what? You can make the argument that Fernando Valenzuela is the greatest Mexican baseball player of all time.
He's certainly the most iconic Mexican baseball player of all time.
Yep.
Like, my grandma doesn't even watch baseball, but she knew who Fernando Valenzuela was. Like, he was like kind of like their hero, if you want to go that far.
Yep. No, I feel like that's fair. I do. I mean, I'm looking at the list right now, and it's an interesting one because you have names like Teddy Higuera, who pitched for the Diablos, and you've got others like Adrian Gonzalez, who was a great, good first baseman during his day.
Very good player.
Right. I also remember, he'll never be like in the all-time greats, but a Rubio Durazo. When Durazo was playing for the Diablos, he was also a very, very feared ball player and had a nice run in the big leagues. But you go through the list of everybody, and to me, it really starts with Fernando Valenzuela. It really does.
Yeah, he kind of paved the way for Mexican kids and just people that came from nothing to, if you can put your mind to it, it'll happen. Like, he was 18, he got signed. 18 years old.
Oh, I know.
I know now that's kind of the norm, but back then was like, wow, 18.
Well, how about this? He broke into Major League Baseball as a 19-year-old.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, Julio Rodriguez did that. He's barely 21.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you're 19 and you're in the majors. Well, wow. But back then was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. No doubt. I mean, I feel like, we should be thinking a lot about Fernando today because of just the importance of what he meant to the game of baseball as far as, all Mexican fans and Mexican Americans. That's absolutely right.
Yep. And, hey, my dad told me something funny. He was like, in 81, his last game that year, he threw the no-hitter against the Yankees, and they won. And he told me, history repeats itself. And I said, no way.
Well, let's put it this way. again, we talked about this too with Jay. He had his number retired by the Dodgers, which is important because I think that absolutely needed to happen. And even if he's someone who will never make it to Cooperstown, the importance here at the border and so many other places in this game, including L.A. Remember, look at the Latino and the Latin just heritage there. And there's so many Latin American baseball fans that have grown up in the L.A. area. And Fernando's a god. Like, he is... Even after his days playing, he was a broadcaster, a Spanish broadcaster. Fernando Valenzuela is one of the most revered Dodger players of all time.
Yep, and, to this day, my dad still has the jersey. And, when he wears it now, you look at it like it's extra special now.
Nicely done. Appreciate you remembering, King Eric. Thanks for the call, man. Good to hear from you, and thanks for getting in today. And, yeah, that's so true that on the day when, we're talking UTEP and we're talking about what happened last night, you have to still bring up the legacy of Fernando Valenzuela and just what he meant to the game of baseball for so many people from not just this area, but all over Mexico that, have watched and idolized him when he took the whole game by storm 40 plus years ago.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to put things into words or put things into just a number and sense things when his impact goes way beyond those things. As far as if I'm not mistaken, he's the only player to win the Cy Young, the Rookie of the Year, and the World Series MVP in the same year. His impact is going to be felt for a very long time to come, especially in that Southern Cal area where so many Mexican Americans live. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of like the so many perfect things happened all at once, and he was that perfect guy that the Dodgers needed in the early 80s, and he had a great career. So hats off to him, and it's just one of those where you feel like maybe he was gone too early.
Oh, please, 63, absolutely gone too early. But the beauty is he spent almost 45 years with that organization and became one of the all-time great ambassadors for Dodger baseball. And that contribution is something that will never be forgotten. And you got to love it. So anyway, yeah, no doubt. All right, 1 down, 2 to go as we continue here on Sports Talk. We're going to shift it over. We're going to go from talking World Series and some baseball and remembering Fernando to our Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl watch. We'll come back. We'll talk more UTEP with you later on in hours 2 and 3. But still to come, Bernie Olivas. Later on, Michael Levy and Lane Frank. So we got a lot in store for you as we take you up till 7 o'clock here on the program. 505-6009. That's our telephone number to get into the program as we continue with more sports talk right here. It's 600 ESPN El Paso.
From the 600 ESPN El Paso River Oaks Properties Schoolyard Sports Studio, here's Steve Kaplowitz and Adrian Broadus.
And start of hour number 2 here on Sports Talk. Welcome back, everybody. As you just heard, Adrian Broadus, who last night had minor talk, and great show as always, presented by our friends at Jack in the Box. A lot of calls, a lot of comments, and as a result, Adrian has the day off today. Alberto Dueta filling in for him, producing the show right across the glass at the 600 ESPN El Paso River Oaks Properties Schoolyard Sports Studios. Speaking of Schoolyard Sports, Mr. Schoolyard Sport himself, Lane Frank, will be dropping by our 6 o'clock hour. He's going to be picking games against Coronado head football coach Mike Pry. That's going to be a lot of fun. A little rivalry with these two T-Birds, so that's coming up in our 6 o'clock hour. Plus, Michael Levy is going to join us also from UTEP Athletics and the Minor Athletic Club to talk about a big NIL event that's coming up right around the corner. But before we get to all of that, I want to welcome back to the show right now the one and only Bernie Olivas. And we've got our Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl watch. Bernie, welcome back. Good to see you. And are we getting any closer to trying to figure out what the heck's going to happen here on December 31st?
Well, we're getting closer. But we're getting closer to the end, but we still have so many possibilities going on. But we are starting to go and check out some teams this week, so maybe something will start shaking out pretty soon. the Pac-12 side, as you all know, we have access to all the Pac-12 schools that left. Mm-hmm. So the Washingtons and the USCs and all those are still be available if they're bowl eligible. And on the ACC side, there's a lot of good teams out there still. But like I said, it's so tight at the top that it's hard to figure out who it's going to be. So we're going to go be watching some football games this weekend, and hopefully we'll get closer.
I'll say this. So talking about the ACC and Pac-12 teams in the ACC, Cal is 0-4 in the league, 3-4 overall. Stanford is 2-5 overall, 1-3 in the league. So they're having trouble this season going up against some of their counterparts from the ACC. But then you look at the other teams that are in the Big 12 from the Pac-12, and we have schools like Utah. They're 4-3 overall, 1-3 right now in the Big 12. Arizona, 1-3 in the Big 12, 3-4 overall. Arizona State's 2-2 and 5-2, and Colorado 3-1 and 5-2. So they're the best two so far from the Pac-12 out there in the Big 12.
I think the big surprise I see is UCLA at 1-4 in conference and 2-5 overall. I thought they were going to be a lot better team this year.
Well, USC too is also 1-4. They're struggling as well,
and they have a tough schedule left too. So. Yep. It's going to be tough for them, but we're looking at USC. We think they can get there, and they can get there, and we'll see what happens. Against Colorado's got a few games that are pretty tough coming up, ahead of them. And we'll see then. Of course, Arizona State is playing very well right now, so we'll see what happens there. So there's still a lot of possibilities on that side, and of course on the ACC side, Clemson and Miami are way up there. Pittsburgh is still undefeated.
Yep.
As is Miami. So Clemson's only lost one game, which isn't surprising. They've been a powerhouse for quite some time now. So, but then you got Syracuse at 5-1. You got Virginia Tech at 4-3. Georgia Tech's one win away from bowl eligibility. Boston College is 4-3. There's still a lot of possibilities out there.
I'll tell you something else, okay? And this is just, we don't know what's going to happen between now and the end, but SMU would be a nice draw for you because they're in the ACC, and you could take a Dallas team, which would be such a short trip from Dallas to El Paso, and that would be good for you. And SMU also has history here in the Sun Bowl.
Oh, absolutely, they have history here. As a matter of fact, my first year involved with the Sun Bowl was 1983, and it was SMU against Alabama. So yeah, they have history here. So there's still a lot of possibilities. I think a lot of great possibilities.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to, December 31st and see what happens. Actually, we're looking forward to December the 8th because that is Selection Sunday, and we'll invite everybody over to Sunland Park Racetrack where we'll have a Selection Sunday party and free food. You buy your own drinks, free food, and we'll, as soon as the teams are announced, we will announce it to everybody there. So we'll invite everybody on December the 8th over at Sunland Park Racetrack and Casino.
Safe to say right now that outside of the Oregon Ducks, every single Pac-12 member that are scattered throughout all these leagues, everybody's up for grabs right now. There's not a single team that you could say, well, they're not. Everybody's in the running right now.
And like I said, maybe Stanford and UCLA have a long road. They've only have 2 wins. You have to win at least 6. They're the only 2 that have not won at least 3 games. So, like you're right, everybody, all the other 10 schools are still possibles here. And the way things are going this year in college football, and you can tell by my scores on my picks every week. You just don't know what's happening every weekend.
How'd you do last week?
5.
So we all got 5. So
yes.
You got 5, I got 5, and Adrian got 5, which means there's no change for our leaderboard from last week. But again, so many upsets, so hard to pick. I was telling you over the phone, I got my first 5 right. I went 5-0 to start, and then I went 0-5 for the bottom games.
It's been tough. It's been a tough year, and I think one of the reasons is every time you're watching a game on TV, and every time somebody scores a touchdown or catches a pass or throws it, the announcers always say, and that is so and so, a transfer from so and so.
That's right.
Everybody who is playing out there scores a touchdown, whatever, and that is so and so transferred over from so and so. And I think the transfer portal has really, really changed a lot of what's going on in college football because you could have a 4-star player who doesn't think he's playing enough in one school, so he'll go someplace else.
That's so true.
And there are just so many great players out there that are switching, that are switching schools that the talent is being spread all over the place. It's just hard to pick somebody.
It's so true. But maybe we've got an answer today. Maybe we have found a celebrity guest picker that can sift through all this stuff and finally bring some normalcy to picking games.
Yeah,
what do you think?
We absolutely need that. We definitely need somebody who can come in here and straighten everything out.
Well, that would lead us to our guest this week. He is our market president. He has been my boss my entire 29-year career at the radio station. The only downside is the Chicago Bears are not part of these picks. It's college football, not the pros. But Brad Dubois will be our celebrity picker this week, Bernie.
I can't believe we've waited so long to have him here.
Oh, yeah, right. Hey, this is looks like a lot of fun here with these choices. I wonder who picked last week with Texas, that game with Georgia.
So that was not in the mix. So these are all games involving ACC and Pac-12 teams. That's the concept of this.
Right, but I was thinking the predictability
I would
game.
have missed it. I picked Texas to win that game, and I would have lost.
So did I.
Yeah.
I think all the game day guys picked Texas.
South Carolina looked like they'd be number 1 too. That's what they just did to Oklahoma. So.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
and that's been the theme of this season, Brad. Upsets galore. Bernie, we don't know from one week to the next what's going to happen in college football.
I know, and that's why we don't know from one week to the next who might be playing in the Tony and Tiger Sun Bowl.
Yep.
But that's what makes it exciting. And like I said, I urge everybody, get your tickets early. Don't be left out like a lot of people did last year when we miraculously wound up with Notre Dame and all of a sudden the tickets were gone in less than 2 days.
That's right.
Go ahead and get your tickets early, no matter who it is. It's going to be a great game. We're going to put on a good show. We always get a good show out there. It's a great event for El Paso. It's a great way to close out the year. So come on and help us sell that place out again. I mean, El Paso needs it. And all the team need it. And it's like I said, it's a marquee event for El Paso, and we just celebrated last week on the 18th of October our 91st birthday. The Sun Bowl is 91 years old. Wow. It was on October 18th, where 7 men got together down at the Hotel Cortez downtown across from San Jacinto Plaza and decided that a football game was going to be a good fundraiser, I believe, to help an orphanage, the Lee and Beulah Moore Orphanage, and that is how this game originated. So that was 91 years ago on October 18th.
1935,
1934.
Huh? 1934.
1934.
Okay. Wow. And by the way, was the first game played in 34 or was the first game played in 35?
First game was played on January 1, 1935. So it was played on the first day
so
of 1935.
they put that thing together, and they did that in 2.5 months?
Yes. And
that's amazing.
Remember, it wasn't the first game was not a college game. It was a game between some Paso High School All-Stars against Ranger High School, who came in second in the state. And the El Paso All-Stars, won that game. The very next year became a college football game. The first 2 college teams that played were New Mexico State against Hardin-Simmons, and that's where it started. But so our first game was there. Our first 3 games were played at our Jones Stadium there at El Paso High, and then it moved into Kitt Field. For whatever years till 1963 when they moved into the new Sun Bowl Stadium. So,
gotcha.
91 years old, and like I said, hope it lasts another 91.
Looking good.
Yeah.
All right, here's how we're going to do this. So it's the Chick-fil-A Tony the Tiger's Sun Bowl Selectum contest for Week 9. Now, Brad, I will go through the games game by game. I'll give you the records. I will give you the point spreads just for information purposes. But all we need is just the straight-up winners. And since you are a celebrity guest picker, you will kick us off with our first game, which will be played tomorrow, Thursday, the 24th. And that's going to be 5:30 on ESPN, Syracuse and Pitt. Pittsburgh is 19th in the country. They're undefeated at 6-0, 2-0 in the ACC. Syracuse, meanwhile, 5-1, 2-1 in the ACC. The game will be at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And Brad, the Pitt Panthers are 6-point home favorites.
I'm taking Pittsburgh.
Well, I think that's a pretty smart choice right there to start it off. What about you, Bernie?
I went back to my old ways and started analyzing records and scores and everything. And, of course, Syracuse is 5-1, Pittsburgh 6-0, but Pittsburgh's ranked, Syracuse is not. And, Syracuse has wins against Ohio, Georgia Tech, Holy Cross, UNLV. I think Pittsburgh's had a little tougher schedule. They're 6-0. I'm going with the Panthers.
I am also going to be going with the Pitt Panthers. Adrian has sent me his picks in advance, Adrian, who had 5 points last week, will be going with the Cuse for the upset. So Syracuse on the road will be Adrian's choice. So he is the person that will differ in our first game of the week. That brings us to game number 2. It's going to be Louisville and Boston College. Going to be taking place Friday at 5:30 from Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, the home of BC. And the Eagles, 4-3 overall, 1-2 in the ACC. The Cardinals are 4-3 as well, 2-2 in the ACC. Louisville, Bernie, on the road, 7.5-point favorites.
Again, I looked at their schedules. Louisville has beat, Austin Peay, Jackson State. They played Virginia, but Boston College has wins over Michigan State, Virginia Tech. I am going with a home team here. I'm taking Boston College.
Now, I agree with you. Boston College has had the more impressive wins so far this season. However, they've lost 2 in a row. They got beat by Virginia and Virginia Tech on the road, which would be a concern. Now, they haven't lost at home yet. However, that being said, I'm going to go Louisville this week and think that could be where the first loss of the season happens. So I'm going to go Louisville. Adrian will also be taking Louisville over Boston College. Brad, what about you?
I'm taking the home team on this one, Boston College.
All right. So Brad and Bernie, both with BC. Adrian and yours truly going with Louisville. That takes us to game number 3, and that's going to feature Rutgers, 4-3 overall, 1-3 in the Big Ten, visiting 3-4 USC, also 1-4 in the Big Ten. Game will be played at the LA Memorial Coliseum. USC 2-touchdown favorites. Adrian says no problem with the Trojans. They are going to take care of business at home. I will agree and also go USC at home. Brad, what about you?
Trojan man. Yep, Trojans.
Trojan man, it is. Oh, my God, what a great reference. Bernie, how do you follow that one?
Hey, Rutgers lost their last 3 games. USC is a much better team than 3 and 4. I am going with the Trojans as well at home.
All right.
By the way, those first 3 games, we're going to have representatives at all those 3 games. Matter of fact, I'm headed down to L.A. on Friday to catch that game. That's a Friday night game, and let's see what happens.
Are you also going to stay in L.A. and go watch Game 2 of the World Series between the Dodgers and the Yankees?
No, as a matter of fact, I'm headed down to San Diego after that to catch Washington State on Saturday night.
Oh, good.
So, again, I'm going to catch 2 football games this weekend.
Was it tempting? Was it tempting knowing that your beloved Yankees are back in the World Series, playing the Dodgers for the first time in 43 years? Were you giving it some thought?
Yeah, but I thought I could spend $2,500 someplace in a better place. I think that's the cheapest ticket going for that game right now. But I would love to have gone to that game, but no, I got work to do. So like I said, I'm going to the USC game, then driving down to San Diego to catch Washington State against San Diego State.
Who you sending to the Syracuse Pit and the Louisville Boston College games?
We got Eamon Ayub and Barry Coburn going to those 2 games out there. So we're
nice.
We're covering 5 games this weekend.
Excellent. All right, let's do game 4 for us. That's going to be Georgia Tech visiting Virginia Tech. Georgia Tech's 5-3, 3-2 in the ACC. Virginia Tech is 4-3, 2-1 in the ACC. Virginia Tech is 10.5-point favorites. And Bernie, I'm going to make this really easy for you. I am sticking with the home team here, and I'm going Virginia Tech over Georgia Tech. Brad, what about you?
Virginia Tech.
All right. Bernie, your turn.
Virginia Tech.
We are unanimous because Adrian has also picked Virginia Tech. So we got 4 down, 6 to go. More in a moment. But first, why don't we play a little trivia right now before the break? Give some lucky listener a chance to win a pair of tickets to the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl game that is coming up on December the 31st. Do you need the question?
No, I think I know the question.
Okay.
I know I gave it over to
Alberto.
To Alberto, but
yes.
I know the question.
Okay.
There are 2 current Big Ten teams that played their initial game at the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl against each other. 2 Big Ten schools who played their initial Sun Bowl game against each other in Sun Bowl. Please name the two schools, the year.
That's a cool trivia question. I like that. So they're in the Big Ten. Their first ever Sun Bowl game was against each other.
Against each other.
All right.
All right. Then give me schools and the year.
Excellent. That's what we need, folks. 505-6009, our telephone number. We'll go to Charlie 1 with traffic, and then we'll finish our picks up when we come back. Here, Sports Talk continues, 600 ESPN El Paso. 24 past the hour as we continue here on Sports Talk. Alberto, do we have a winner on trivia?
We do. Tony Lamas just won. Third caller we had.
Tony Lamas?
That's his name.
I wonder if it's Tony Lama.
Maybe. I don't. Maybe.
But there is an S, huh?
That's what he said. That's what he called
okay.
himself,
All
and
right.
that's what I wrote down.
That's
and
good.
he guessed the correct answer. Michigan State defeated USC 17-16 on December 31st of 1990.
I was at that game.
Nice.
I was on the field of that game. Todd Marinovich was playing in that game. That was a big deal in those years.
That was one of the hardest hitting games I'd ever been to, because it was a rematch of the Rose Bowl the year before, and they did not like each other. And it was the hardest hitting football games that I've ever been to, USC and Michigan State.
Wasn't George Perlis the coach of Michigan State in that game?
Yes, George Perlis was the coach. He was one of the finest coaches, funniest coaches.
Was he really?
I've there's a story that normally when the teams arrive, the first thing they do, we have a meeting. And I welcome the whole team, and then I tell them the do's and the don'ts about being El Paso and where they can go, and I try to give them like I said, the ins and outs. And Coach Perlis gets up there, and the first thing he says, "All right, you all heard that. We're going to abide by the rules, but today," he says, "the bet check will be at." He says, "Bet check will be at what did he say? Bet check will be at 11 o'clock tonight. The first night they're here." He says, "Bet check will be at 11 o'clock. And if any of you are in bed, I'm going to send you home the next morning." He said, "I want you all to come here and have a really good time. So there is no curfew tonight. There's no curfew tonight." Like I said, bet check will be 11. If you're anybody in there, I'm going to send you home. And then I'll settle after that. And he did. He went 11, and then he went 10 and 9 and 8, and he just cut the curfew down. But I thought it was fun. He says, "Any of you are in bed, I'm sending you home." And they played a heck of a game. And he was one of our biggest supporters after. That was the first Big Ten team that had ever played in the Sun Bowl game.
That was a big deal. That game was a very, very big deal.
Huge deal.
Yeah, I remember.
We could never get a Big Ten team to come, and our football chairman, John Fulmer, he offered them an invitation when they were like 3-4 or something, and we didn't know whether they were going to have a winning record or not, and he accepted it. Wow. Been right in the middle of the season, and they wound up winning with a winning record and came down here. And he was so impressed with us that he went back to the Big Ten and told the whole Big Ten, "You guys don't know what you're missing." And that's how we started getting Big Ten schools here.
I love that. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Great story. Congratulations, Tony. All right, Brad Dubow, our market president, is our celebrity guest picker today, and he is 4 picks down. We got 6 to go, Brad. So we'll go right back to you for our next matchup. It's going to be a good one, too. 24th ranked Navy midshipmen. They are undefeated at 6-0. They're going to be hosting 6-1 Notre Dame. All right. This game is going to be at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford. Should be a packed house. Notre Dame, 13-point road favorites. Brad, will Navy stay undefeated, or will it all come to an end thanks to the Irish?
I'm going with Old Navy.
Are you? You're picking Navy to win this. That'd be a big upset.
Yes.
I like that. All right. What about you, Bernie? What do you think?
Gosh, I would love for Navy and Army to play for the AAC championship on December the 7th. And they could still do it, but I think the road's coming to an end this weekend for Navy. I'm taking Notre Dame.
All right, so is Adrian when it comes to this game. And as I look at my picks, I also taking the Irish. So we're all 3 going Notre Dame. Brad will be sticking with Navy for the major upset in this one. All right, let's jump right back to it. And again, good games here. This one will feature 4-3 Washington visiting 7-0 Indiana. That's right. They are 13th in the nation. They are still undefeated, 4-0 in the Big Ten, while Washington is 2-2 in the Big Ten. The game will be played in Bloomington. And as you would expect, Indiana, Bernie, 6.5-point home favorites.
Well, as I think Navy's streak is going to come to an end, I don't think it's going to happen for Indiana. I'm going to pick Indiana over Washington, and they're going to remain undefeated.
All right. By the way, Adrian also goes with Indiana over Washington, and yours truly taking Indiana over Washington, which means will Brad go with the Hoosiers or will he go with the Huskies? Let's find out.
I think Indiana's going to crush them. They played great last week, too. They just winning big. So who knows when that one ends. But they're playing really good, and they're playing at home. That'd be bad to bet against.
All right, so we're all unanimous. We're all going Indiana over Washington. Final 4 games, and they will start with number 20, Illinois, visiting number 1, Oregon. That's right, the Ducks, the number 1 team in the country. It's 7-0, 4-0 in the Big Ten. Illinois, they made headlines last week, playing with those cool-looking helmets that I thought were leather until I saw how they made them, and the spray paint looked beautiful. They beat Michigan. They're 6-1, 3-1 in the Big Ten. They are 20th overall, yet they are 21.5-point underdogs to the Ducks. Adrian will start us off. He goes with Oregon at home, and I echo those sentiments. It's hard to pick against Oregon right now, even though Illinois will probably pose a very good challenge. Brad, will your home state get the upset win, or will the Ducks continue to quack?
I'm going for the fight in the Illini. I think this is like one that you don't see it coming and everything. And just like I didn't think Texas saw Georgia beating the crap out of them, I think this will be a competitive game.
There it is. Brad going upset special and picking Illinois. What about you, Bernie?
I think after that big Illinois win last week, if they would be playing in Illinois, I would have probably picked them. But I can't go against Oregon at Oregon, especially when they're ranked number 1 and they're 7-0. I'm taking the Ducks.
All right. We got that down. 3 to go. Let's get right back to it as we hit the bottom of the hour. Middle of the show here, 5:30. Oregon State and Cal going to be doing battle in the ACC, but it's an old-fashioned Pac-12 game is what it is. Oregon State's 4-3. Cal's 3-4. Cal, 10-point home favorites over Oregon State. I'm up first with this one, and tough game. You could go easily go Oregon State on the road, but I'll take Cal at home. I think they'll bounce back at the 500 and beat Oregon State. Brad, what about you?
Same, California.
All right, Bernie, your turn.
Like I said, it's an old Pac-12 game, and I'm going to go with the way it used to be in old time Pac-12. I am taking Oregon State over Cal.
All right, you're on your own because Adrian also going with Cal at home. So Bernie, the only person to go with Oregon State. We got 2 left. Let's get right back to it. This game will be Saturday at 6 o'clock. Another ACC showdown for number 22 SMU visiting Duke. This is going to be interesting. Duke is 6-1, 2-1 in the ACC. SMU is 6-1. 3-0 in the ACC. SMU is ranked 22nd. Duke is unranked. And yet, Brad, Duke getting no respect. SMU, 11.5-point road favorites in this one.
I'm going to go with Duke at home.
All right.
Blue Devils at home.
Brad going major upset here, going Duke at home. What about you, Bernie?
I am, I don't know why. I like Duke. They're playing good football. I'm just going to go with SMU only because they're ranked and Duke isn't. For no other reason. I think Duke is a very good football team, and they might win it. But I just said, you know what? I'm going to go with the ranked team.
All right. Adrian is going with Duke, just like Brad, taking Duke at home over SMU in the upset. I'm with you. I'm going SMU also because they're ranked, and I'll take SMU on the road. They've impressed me this season. I thought that what I've seen out of SMU has been pretty solid, so I'll take SMU over Duke as the road winner. Takes us down to our final game of the week, and that'll feature 5-2 Cincinnati visiting 5-2 Colorado. They're both 3-1 in the Big 12. This game will be in Boulder at Folsom Field. Bernie, Colorado, 5-point home favorites.
Maybe, like I said, I think I'm picking this one with my heart instead with my head. I'm going with the Bearcats. I'm going Cincinnati.
Okay. Adrian is picking Colorado because he rolls Colorado every week. and I have not been rolling with Colorado, and I have been getting burned. So I'm jumping back on the Colorado bandwagon. I will take I will take Colorado to beat Cincinnati and see if the Buffs can get it done. Brad, what about you? Who are you taking?
I don't want to take Colorado, but I'm going to take them in this one.
All right, so Colorado over Cincinnati for Brad, which gets us to our final tiebreaker. The total number of points scored during the Syracuse-Pittsburgh game. And just for reference on that one, Brad, the total number of points right now is 62.5. So give us a total that'll be scored during the Syracuse-Pittsburgh game.
70.
70 for Brad. What about for you, Bernie?
I am going a little lower than that. I'm going 58.
58 for Bernie. Adrian's going 67, and I am going to go 64. So 64 for me in this one. All right. Picks are in. Excited about this. Hopefully we bounce back. Let's be honest. This has been a rough season for all of us, Bernie. It really has. You know, one week we might pick 6 or 7, 8 right. Next week we're picking 4 or 5 right. That's just how it is.
That's the way this whole season has been so far.
Brad,
and it's not that we're making bad picks. There's just a lot of. It's just everybody can beat anybody nowadays. It's pretty tough.
Now, Steve, you can't win the prize, right?
That is correct.
But
because
you did win it a few weeks ago, but you couldn't claim it.
I won my first week ever in this contest. And I have been playing since it started. And you have no idea how satisfying it was. Even when Bernie made the phone call that morning and said, you can't win the prize. I said, I don't care. I'm winning. That's all that matters. I see my name at the top. Even if it's not in bold print, I'm happy.
So what prize didn't you win again?
I didn't win I would have won a pair of tickets to the game, and I think I would have also won a Chick-fil-A sandwich, right?
It's a Chick-fil-A sandwich and the opportunity to win the big tickets on Championship Saturday. Every weekly winner, will get to play on Championship Saturday and just pick the winners of all the championship games for a chance for the big tickets up in the captain's club.
Oh, that's great.
Don't worry, I'm gonna make Bernie still buy me a Chick-fil-A sandwich because I won that week. So that's something we've already discussed off.
Does the annual winner get Chick-fil-A for a year?
So the annual, listen to this, okay? We play. It's Adrian, Bernie, myself, and then our celebrities each week. But the three of us, we total up our points. Loser buys lunch for the three of us at the end of the season.
At Chick-fil-A.
Hopefully Chick-fil-A.
At Chick-fil-A. Yes. And we've done this contest. This is our third year. Adrian has had to buy lunch the first 2 years.
Could be a three-peat.
It could very well be. We're all hoping for a three-peat. Yeah. He's not. We are.
Well, hopefully all those people at Household Furniture, too, who bet on the Chiefs with that.
Oh, that was another big promotion. You heard about this, right?
No, I didn't hear that one.
Oh, this was big. So before the season started, actually leading up to, I think, the first weekend or two, if you purchased a Tempur-Pedic mattress from Household Furniture and the Chiefs win the big one, your purchase is free.
Oh, geez, Louise, that's a pretty good promotion there.
And they're undefeated right now.
They shouldn't be. They've had a little help from the stripe people. Oh. Like I said, I look at it very. I'm not a Chiefs hater. I'm not a Chiefs fan. I really don't see a lot of NFL. I concentrate, but I saw a couple of games, a couple of calls that cost the other team. The game, I would think. So they're undefeated. They're not as good as they have been. I don't think they're going to make it.
You don't think they'll get their bet? See, they usually have done it with the Cowboys. So how you bought your furniture, right. You beat the Cowboys, you had to win the Super Bowl. This time they went for the three.
I think for Household Furniture, it's good to pick to do it with a Super Bowl champion because it's very hard to repeat.
They were smart. That's right. Well, and by the way, this is going to be a three-peat. But let's put it this way: if you had to put your faith in the Chiefs this year or the Cowboys, who would you take?
Oh, there's no.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
So, that turned out to be probably a much better deal than anything else.
And by the way, for everyone listening, the Bears are 4-2, just one game out of first.
Is this the happiest you've ever been as a Bears fan in recent years, for sure?
Okay, look, you guys have the World Series with the Dodgers and the Yankees, right? Mm-hmm. I have the 121-loss White Sox, so anything in Chicago that's going good is good. So the Bulls are 0-0, so we're winning already there.
That's right.
And the Bears are 4. Like I said, you never know where it's going to go. Look at what Houston did last year, what they're doing this year.
It's exactly. You never know what's going to happen. It's a
But
great
the
point.
teams in the North are just like all doing great right now.
Well, the NFC North is the best division of football in the NFL because you have Packers, Lions, Vikings, Bears. They're all playing great.
They're all playing pretty well.
It's going to be a knockout division this year.
So by next, for a few weeks, I'm happy.
Enjoy.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming in with us. This was a lot of fun.
Sure. Appreciate it. It's always good to be with Bernie and you, Steve.
Yeah.
Bernie, Thanksgiving right around the corner, which means parade is right around the corner.
That's it. Thanksgiving Day,
Turkey trot.
November 28th, on Montana, from Montana down all the way down to Copia. If you want to sit in the comfort of a grandstand, tickets are sold at all Vista Markets, $10. If you don't want to stand on the curb, you'll have your own private. Your bathrooms there don't have to go there. You'll have free parking if you get there on time. So go get your tickets for the grandstand at any Vista Market in town.
Tell you what, based on the weather we're having, it could be 70 degrees by the time this parade kicks off in about a month.
Hopefully it will.
You never know.
Yeah, go buy your tickets for the grandstands, and like I said, you don't have to. It's still free. It's still free to go. We'll see the parade. It starts in Ochoa and goes all the way to Copia. All right, on November 20th. I'm sorry, Thanksgiving morning.
It's all right. It's right around the corner.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Bernie, appreciate you stopping in. Thank you for another great week of the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl watch. And, of course, Brad, appreciate you coming in as well.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And there's also the KLAQ parade that's coming up October 31st as we're talking parades. But
our Halloween parade.
That's
right.
It's
a Halloween parade.
Matter of fact, our Halloween parade is 8 days away. Album Park. Brad, how long has that Halloween parade been going on?
39 years.
39 years.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
39 years. We came up with a crazy idea to do that. And
Yeah,
it's still happening.
Yeah, Tony the Tiger is a Grand Marshal a few years back.
Yeah.
That was
We're
awesome.
do that cereal bowl thing. We're going to do that.
There you go.
Bernie, have you ever been the Grand Marshal of the KLAQ Halloween parade?
No, I have not.
We need to make that happen, Brad. We need to talk to the powers that be.
Bring Tony.
Maybe somebody can.
We
We
can
can
bring
make that. We can make that happen. That would be great. All right, good stuff, guys. Thanks again. When we come back, final 20 minutes of hour number 2. Stay with us. Sports Talk continues. 600 ESPN El Paso. Jim Ward's been busy touring Sparta and getting all of his acts in around the world, and somehow Jim will find a way to take a break in time for UTEP basketball season, because Jim and his wife Christine, about the biggest UTEP basketball fans you're going to find anywhere around here. So happy we're playing them, and excited about that. Excited that the NBA season is going on. In fact, if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports, Underdog is the place to be. Matter of fact, they've got so many things going on with their pick'em games. You could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats, like in the NBA, points, blocks, steals, so much more. NFL, passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns. You better believe it, folks. Underdog puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep riding with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you want. You can follow the hot hand or go against the cold one with partial picks and selections. I told you about NBA. You can choose from first quarter, first half, or full game projections. Move while the game does with in-game picks. In fact, I'm looking at tonight's NBA games. I love this. Sometimes they'll give you their pre-selections. This one is called the NBA West All-Stars. The entries include John Morant, higher than 25.5 points. Kevin Durant, higher than 24.5 points. James Harden, higher than 38 points, rebounds, and assists combined. Or Steph Curry, higher than 27 points. That's right. This season, Underdog will be running a special promo or bonus almost every single day. It's currently Boostober. From now until October 27th, you can boost your profit on all NBA entries by 20%. Underdog is literally giving you unlimited profit boosts to make basketball picks. All you have to do is download the app, sign up with promo code KLAQ, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code KLAQ. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. All right, got a busy final hour coming up with Michael Levy from UTEP Athletics, and then Lane Frank for joining us. I saw this came in during the show a little while ago from Poncho. He said, if players can get paid through NIL, then they should be fined for dirty hits. Sam Houston, another program that flies past UTEP. Well, they have. In year 2, they have flown past UTEP. I feel like that is very accurate, Poncho. And I agree also about the fines. Don't see why not. It'll never happen. But, again, players might think twice if they were fined for hits like that.
Yeah, I think they should be fined, but definitely according to whatever they're bringing in, according to NIL, right? Not all these collegiate athletes have these lucrative game checks or even have game checks to begin with. So, yeah, I think they should definitely be fined, but not in comparison to anything in that NFL level because, like I said, they're not all in that realm. But if you're making $3 million in NIL and you lay down a dirty hit, then definitely they should lay you down with a $3,000, $4,000 fine.
Yep. This came from Victor Neff at Neff Vic Trump. He goes, UTEP held La Tech to 8 yards rushing and several sacks and pressures, but our secondary players were spectators. We should have passed and ran to victory until that vicious hit on Skyler that usually draws a targeting foul. The refs were letting them play. By the way, the player was ejected for that hit, and it was targeting. But here's the thing that I wanted to mention earlier that shocked me. I couldn't believe after the hit when Skyler was knocked essentially unconscious or just suffered the concussion, how not a single player on the field for UTEP, especially the offensive linemen who were all around, did not go and attack that player from La Tech. That surprised me in a big way. In fact, I kept waiting to see somebody come to Skyler's defense and go after that player, but it just never happened. In fact, you look at the guy, Zach Zemos, who came to Louisiana Tech, I believe, from Arkansas, where he was from prior to. And I was just waiting to see somebody go after Zemos, and nobody did. That surprised me a little bit. Either they were stunned and they were caught up in the heat of the moment. Who knows? But you got to have your guys back. And when somebody gets knocked down, and he's your quarterback. You got to go take care of the person that just took him out.
Yeah, it's something that you constantly see at all levels of football. So I definitely expected it, and callers on Minor Talk reflected the same sentiments that you have. So it's not something that went unnoticed with the fan base. But even on the defensive side of the ball, I expected to see something, some sort of type of aggression from that defense, which is already an extremely aggressive group. But at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like you got that. You got even, at least, right? And that's right. In no way or sense did you want to scoop down to that level of dirty, but you don't feel like you walked away even at the end of the day.
Well, listen, Augustine believes that was football and that the fans like Victor are snowflakes for even suggesting that. It was a dirty hit. You cannot call that particular hit football, okay? It just wasn't. Would that have been football in the 1960s when guys were hitting like that and that was the norm? Sure. Not today. Not the way the game is played, not trying to protect players from injury, concussions, and so forth. And when you launch yourself like he did, and you essentially launch at a player and that player gets concussed, it's a dirty play. It's just a dirty play. All right. 2 down, 1 to go. Got a busy 6 o'clock hour, plus our Dallas Cowboys update with Christy Scales is coming up next, right here, 600 ESPN El Paso. Distributing is the exclusive distributor for hot seat pressure washers with cold water, hot water, and also trailer-mounted machinery. There's a wide variety to fix your needs and fit your needs with Longhorn Distributing. And also, we've had a lot of studio guests. It's been great. Bernie Olivas was just here. Lane Frank is going to be dropping by in a little bit, along with Coronado head football coach Mike Pry, former UTEP Miner. I'm excited about that, with the two of them coming by a little bit later. And Michael Levy is back with us again from UTEP Athletics. Michael, first off, you're becoming quite a regular here. Are you ready to start hosting the show for me so I could take a little R&R and maybe give you the show?
We talked about taking this off-site, so I think we got some ideas. Sure.
Good. That'll be perfect. You've been busy, a lot going on with everything happening. You've got football season past the midway point, basketball right around the corner. Kayla Thornton just won her first WNBA title on Sunday with
cool
the
is
New
that?
York Liberty.
Yeah.
Volleyball is playing their biggest match of the season with Western Kentucky Friday and Saturday. A lot happening.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And heck, it seems like almost 3 years ago, but it was only 3 weeks ago we got that awesome call from the Mountain West Conference, right? So we're still building off of that. And, yeah, it's been absolutely a whirlwind. We call this crossover season, right? When you have your fall sports still in season and you're about to start winter sports. We got basketball tipping off here just around the corner as well.
So as deputy athletic director, you're in charge of a lot of different things, a lot underneath you and your departments. But one of the cool things is the fact that you are going to be bringing NIL in-house with all of the different collectives, which is why you're here today, because a week from today, next Wednesday, there's going to be a very big event that's going to be happening involving UTEP and NIL that I wanted to have you talk about to our listeners.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And NIL is such a moving target, right? July 1st, 2021 is when name, image, and likeness became legalized for student athletes basically to monetize their brand. And every day since that point, universities have been able to have more and more involvement. So while we aren't bringing in NIL in-house per se, there's a lot of things that we can do institutionally now that we couldn't do before. Mm-hmm. So we are now allowed to promote and help facilitate NIL deals for our student athletes.
Okay.
So we could be actively involved in those conversations, as can our coaches. There's still a need at this current juncture for outside entities to help support and gather money in an effort to promote, opportunities for our student athletes collectives, right? NIL collectives. And I think one of the times I've come on here recently, we talked about how we have two collectives, right? The Miner Collective and the Gold Mine Collective. And they've been working closer together, understanding the needs and how there's a lot of people that have interest in supporting both men's basketball and our other sports. And so we've been working behind the scenes and are excited next Wednesday night, 6 p.m., at St. Rogers Depot to really make an announcement that's going to be huge for us moving forward and to really put a magnifying glass on the realities of where we're at and where we need to be, especially when July 1st, 2026 comes and we're a member of the Mountain West Conference. So everything's kind of coordinated strategy-wise around promoting those opportunities.
Is the event at St. Rogers Depot next Wednesday open to the public?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in the sense that we want anybody that is interested in supporting NIL to come out. The original invitation was from the collectives based on their members, encouraging their members to get other community members involved. I had a call with those gentlemen today, and I said, hey, I'm going to come on the air. Let's promote this thing. Yeah. And so I think everyone understands we need to grow the base, right? We've had a lot of people, great community members, step up and give at a high level. But for this to be successful, and if you look at our competition, right, University of New Mexico is a great example, strength in numbers, right? Getting thousands of people to give something monthly, annually, is going to be the difference maker between what we're doing now and where we need to be.
Makes a lot of sense. Michael Levy with us here on Sports Talk as we continue. So, St. Rogers Depot, next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. This is something that if you've ever had interest in NIL, whether you've given in the past or you want to give in the future, this is definitely something you're going to want to be a part of.
Absolutely. What you're going to learn, all the different ways you can get involved. And clearly, it's as simple as going online and going to goldminecollective.com and making a donation. But there's a lot of ways as a business owner, as an employee, right? You can also get involved that we'll talk about. And we'll have opportunities to hear from some of our head coaches to talk about how NIL is playing out for each specific program, because what NIL looks like for Joe Golding is different than what Ben Wallace deals with. But I'm telling you, this isn't just a football and men's basketball thing now. It's involved in every sport. We talk about Kayla Thornton. Women's basketball, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, night and day, right? The Caitlin Clark effect had ripple effects, but with more exposure becomes more interest, and more interest becomes more money, right? And so Keitha is dealing with that now as well. So it's a really good opportunity to come get educated on what NIL looks like here at UTEP.
I know in the past, collectives have been generating money, and that's gone back to the student athletes.
Yep.
Also, around the country, you will find that some student athletes get directly compensated for doing things that involves their name, image, likeness. Will they continue to be compensated directly like people have in the past, or will everything now be filtered in through the university?
Yes. There are going to be, right as it stands right now, there's going to be opportunities in every different spectrum you talked about. We hope, NIL inherently is a good thing, right? Giving student athletes, while the lights are the brightest and maybe their whole entire lives, right? There's so much interest in them, giving them the opportunity to monetize that. For anybody that's interested, obviously if they're listening, they're probably interested in sports.
Sure.
Go watch the Netflix or Amazon documentary, the Money Game. It follows NIL at LSU this past year and highlights specific student athletes. That'll show you some of the real marketing opportunity for some of our student athletes. And so we're working behind the scenes to help encourage those opportunities. But as it currently stands, there is still need for a strong collective, and there's not a direct rule associated with it, but it's pretty good, pretty certain. If you go on ESPN.com and look at the standings of every sport, every football program, it's not directly attributed, but usually the top 4 or 5 teams probably have the top, 4 or 5 NIL collectives or collective organizations helping them. So we see upsets out all the time. That's what makes sports awesome. Vanderbilt over Alabama, right? So you can still do that. And what we are trying to do at UTEP is not what Alabama's trying to do at NIL, but there needs to be scaled presence there.
How is NIL in the Mountain West? Since you're going in there, and in 2 years you will become a new member of the Mountain West, how does that conference look right now in terms of its members and the NIL programs that are in place, from what you know?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, and that's a good qualifier. What we know, finding apples to apples sometimes is difficult, but what I can tell you, it's very competitive in a basketball sense. We know how strong that basketball conference is. I think they had 6 teams in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. The men's NCAA tournament this past year. And so with that competition rises everywhere. So it's and there's history in those sports. We have an opportunity. No one, I would say, from a football perspective, is just knocking it out of the park. So it kind of follows where our NIL is right now. We have a very strong, supportive NIL group that has been committed to men's basketball for several years. That's the same in the Mountain West. Football is kind of a newer thing for a lot of programs. With NIL, it's kind of where we are. So there's a reason why we were a good fit for the Mountain West. We fit the profile almost perfectly of the schools that we're going to be competing against, but they probably are a year or two ahead of us in every aspect of our program, including NIL.
So this will give you the opportunity to catch up a little bit and then go into 2026 on more of an equal footing, especially if things start to happen in this regard.
You're 100% right. A lot of our fans I've heard are like, man, can we just go next year? I'm like, well, that'd be fun for road trips and for competition, but frankly, we need a little time. I think July 1st, 2026 is the perfect time because it gives us 18 months, 21 months to build up to that point. So we're going to definitely educate people. You're going to be seeing some cool stuff coming out from the athletics department at the turn of the year, talking about how we need to climb higher as an athletics department in every sense of the word. We can do that from a facility standpoint, but we can absolutely do that from an NIL standpoint as well.
If people that are interested in listening to this conversation want to go next Wednesday, that let's say are hearing about this now for the first time, who do they need to call, contact, just to make sure that there's a place for them at this meeting?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. If they email the Minor Athletic Club at minor.athletic.utep.edu, or they can contact me directly, just go to our staff directory. Myself or Aaron Price on our staff, we'll get them taken care of. But we would encourage them to reach out just so we can know that they're gonna be there.
Because there could be businesses listening, business owners and people that are hearing this, and they're like, you know what? We really want to get involved. And it's funny because, not to say that they shouldn't have gotten involved before, but all of a sudden, rejoining a bunch of former WAC schools has brought a lot more interest into the program that we might not have had in recent years.
No doubt. I mean, I don't want to go too far into NIL strategy. We could talk for hours, but here's a small example of a business owner could help, right? They could own a local laundromat, right? And at the end of the day, somebody checks out and it's $9.32. Well, they could ask that customer, would you like to round up 68 cents to the Gold Mine Collective, right? We're going to have a lot of transactions. If we did that all across town, we wouldn't have all of our NIL problems solved, but it would certainly make our lives a lot easier.
It would make it help. It would help.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So we just need to think there's not one lever we're going to pull. We got to pull a lot of little levers. And so we've seen what this town can do when they're rallied behind something. So this is just an opportunity to rally behind our student athletes.
Terrific stuff. Great to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I'm excited about next Wednesday's event. I know it's going to be a big one for you, and keep coming on and giving us all the latest lowdown as it pertains to UTEP.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
You got it. He's Michael Levy, folks, and he's joining us here on Sports Talk. 16 past the hour. When we return, Lane Frank back in studio, and oh, man, this week's guest is going to be a good one. It is a Coronado High School theme. We'll tell you about it right after Charlie One, who's got this traffic update for us. Back here on Sports Talk as we continue, 21 past the hour right now. Let's see here if I can help you out. Let me see. Better, worse? Hang on. Talking to Lane Frank. We good? Yeah, you could say we're good.
Okay, we're good. We're good. Don't want to get the off-air talk on there.
I don't care about that. People have to understand, man. That's just the way things work sometimes.
Got to fill up time.
Exactly. Well, with you, there's never a problem filling up time. That's for sure. Time flies when you're here in the studio. And by the way, I want to say this. I want to commend you. I thought you did a great job at the event last Sunday with Robert Steinfeld, who was in town promoting a book he just wrote, a longtime television sports producer. Watched you moderate that. There's very few things I would give up Sunday night Jets football and Mets Dodgers for. But the good news is the Jets lost, the Mets lost. You were the highlight of my Sunday night, so thank you for that.
I think it was a good thing for me to be doing that. If I was at home watching the Mets game, that would have been a little bit unsafe for maybe me, my mental health, to watch that Mets game. Yeah. But yeah, that was a fun event to do. Thank you for coming out.
It was fun to be there. Let's talk about Schoolyard Sports, because that's going to be dropping here either tomorrow or Friday.
Should be dropping tomorrow. We got a lot of great things. Doing our NBA preview, bringing down my NBA champion for this year. A lot of good college ball hot takes I got coming up. There's a lot of great college football games this week. Bringing down maybe some trade rumors we're seeing in the NFL. It's just a great episode. You're going to want to tune in on it tomorrow.
There's so much unpredictable football games in college, isn't it? You just can't get a good handle on what's going to happen from week to week these days.
I had my whole moment on the show last week saying, I know the most about college football. My picks haven't been good. I need to improve my game. I thought I would go out there on Saturday and have a good week picking the games. No, I did terrible again. But this week, we're going to get it right. I've been doing great in the NFL. College, I'm struggling.
So you need your NFL luck to transfer over a little bit to college, what you're telling me.
I think so, and it's like I know so much more about college than the NFL. I think I know a lot about both, but I know everything about college football, and I'm missing all these picks.
Is Michigan bumming you out a little bit?
Michigan's definitely bumming me out a little bit because this is a very talented defense. This team has 4 first-round picks. It's just frustrating because I think the staff Sharon Moore put together was not a great staff. This defensive line is probably the best defensive line in the country, yet they start out every drive in opposing or in their own territory because the offense can't play well. Offense get too many turnovers, too many punts. This quarterback situation isn't being handled well at all. by Sharon Moore. I didn't get the move to pull Alex Orji so early after he was undefeated as a starter. Still hasn't lost as a starter, so hopefully they can go back to him. But a lot of struggling things with Michigan right now. I think the biggest problem was not getting a quarterback in the portal. I attest that, or I think that's maybe because Michigan had a national championship run last year, wasn't focusing on the portal right then, then the portal closes, all the quarterbacks are gone. Michigan's stuck with their quarterback situation right now, and that's why they lost to Illinois on Saturday.
Interesting. All right. Hey, by the way, good take on that. We've got a Coronado theme show today. We've got head football coach Mike Pry with us right now. Former T-Bird, former UTEP Miner. Now he's back as UTEP, actually as a Coronado coach since he played for the T-Birds, and huge game himself coming up with Eastwood. It's a big battle we're talking about here.
Definitely a big battle for playoff implications. Hopefully the T-Birds can get it done.
You know what else is great about Coach Pry? When he was at Coronado, Eastwood was like the biggest rival. Although I don't even know if Franklin was even around then. That was before Franklin was even a memory. They were talking about building it, but Coronado Eastwood was the thing in those days, Coach.
It was Mike Deal and Darius Ellison, and it was those were our biggest rivals. It was East versus West.
I remember. It's crazy to see how things have changed all these years, isn't it?
Crazy, really crazy. Now the rivals down the street.
I know, but there's still that feeling of rivalry between Eastwood and Coronado, isn't there? Especially for people like us and older, that those were the schools back then.
Sure, I think there's a lot of parity between the two schools, and it's the rivalry's still there for sure.
Talk a little bit about how this season's gone for you. You've had some big wins. I know the West Side Bowl was a dogfight right down to the very end, but all in all, are you pretty pleased with what you've had a chance to see from your team this year?
I am pleased. We started out pretty hot. We've had 2 bye weeks, which has been very awkward, but they kind of came at good times to get kids healthy. And so it's been a good year. Kids have performed well. We had some key positions to fill, which we think we filled. And so the kids have played really hard, and we've gotten some good wins, and we've got to get this one this week.
All right. So Eastwood is definitely the big one on the agenda. And can you believe that we're almost in November, and before you know it, it's going to be the playoffs?
It's crazy. Yeah, it's in this game. Lane is exactly right. This game has a lot of playoff implications, so we got to go get it.
Things need to get done. How did you do in your tennis in the state tournament? Give me a little summary on that.
We didn't make state tournament. We lost an area to South Lake Carroll. They're one of the best teams in the country for pretty much every sport. I'd say they're a powerhouse in Dallas.
I consider when you're in the playoffs the state tournament. Now whether you get to win state or not is something else. But I'm thinking, hey, you're in it. You got a shot. So.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's a great state tournament between the top 8 schools or top 4 schools, and that regional tournament. Hopefully one day we can make it to that state tournament.
And where were you? You're in Midland, Odessa?
Yeah, we were a neutral site in Midland against South Lake Carroll.
How is the tennis courts out there in Midland?
We actually, last year we played at Midland High. This year we played at Midland Tennis Center, and it was a really nice tennis center. I mean, they had 5 pickleball courts. I think they had 3 padel courts, 18 tennis courts. Franklin was playing there too, so
really?
Nice area.
When are we going to get a Coronado pickleball team?
We don't need a Coronado pickleball team.
Why?
We do not need a Coronado. We got the athletic director right here.
You know what? I'm on it too. We'll play together. You know what? You get a pickleball team going to Coronado. I'm down.
I've got a brand new pickleball set sitting in my bedroom. Haven't even been used. We're going to break it out, Lane.
What do you say? So right there, you already got 2 people, 2 Coronado alum, one that's still there coaching, and myself that would be more than happy to play some Coronado pickleball.
As a tennis player, I really don't like pickleball, so I'm going to say no to that idea, Steve.
Really? It's like an insult to you? It's an insult at 16. I guarantee you this. Your dad would play pickleball if he had the opportunity.
I don't think he's ever played pickleball.
He would. He would do it. I
like padel. Padel's more fun. That's the second most popular sport in Spain behind soccer.
All right. So
ahead of tennis.
Padel, huh?
Padel. They're opening one here.
We are getting a padel court here. All right. That was what we were talking about, Alberto, before. That's exactly it, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. You guys ready to pick some football games?
Let's do it. I'm ready to win some games.
There you go. Coach, you're going to get a better, get some better results against Lane this time around. What do you think?
I don't know. When I come back in my next life, I want to be this guy. He's my hero.
All right. Well, maybe you'll get your chance to do that right now. Starting with tomorrow night's Thursday night game. It's the prime video game. The 5-1 Vikings, 2-0 on the road, visiting the 2-4 Rams, 2-1 at home. It's going to be at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. We'll start with you right now, Coach. I'll give you the spread just for the information, but we only need straight-up winners. Minnesota, 3-point road favorites over the Rams.
I'm going to go with the Vikings. They're hot. They're 5-1 right now. Aaron Jones, you can't go against the hometown kid. I was lucky enough to coach him back at Burgess, so we're going Vikings.
Oh, that's so cool. What about you, Lane?
Some weird trade rumors between these two teams. Matthew Stafford is on the trade market. I saw even a thing. Matthew Stafford straight up for Sam Darnold. Cooper Kupp on the trade market. Let's see how that affects him in this game. Vikings are a great team. They have one bad loss, or not even a bad loss. One loss to the Lions last week. Probably should have won that game. Let's go Vikings over the Rams. They get to 6-1.
Okay. By the way, what was Aaron Jones like coaching him in high school approaches?
Phenomenal. So he had him and Alvin, and Alvin was ornery, and Aaron was just a sweetheart. So great kids, very like you see him. Yes sir, no sir. When I was coaching at Pebble Hills and teaching, Aaron would always FaceTime the kids and answer questions, and he's a salt of the earth kind of guy.
Was he someone both of them, you had a really good feeling coming out of high school that they would have a chance to have really nice college careers?
Not really. I think they've worked their way into what they got. And I had them as sophomores at Burgess, and they were skinny little kids, and they've worked them way, into obviously what he's become. But you really didn't know it back then. But they had a work ethic that was unmatched, so you can kind of tell they were going to be special.
I love it. All right, let's get right back to it. Sunday games, these will all be 11 o'clock games. We'll begin with the Jets and the Patriots. The Jets are 2-5, 1-3 on the road. The Pats are 1-6. They're winless at home. Drake May is quarterback. It's going to be at Foxborough Stadium, or Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. And Lane, the Jets, 7-point road favorites.
Jets are better than their record, which is 2-5. Patriots have one win on the season. It's in week 1. They didn't even play well in that game. Drake May, actually like what I'm seeing out of Drake May. I think the Patriots should go get Drake May a receiver. Look at Cooper Kupp. Why not get him? Cooper Kupp was on the market, but they're not going to do that this week. Let's go Jets over Patriots.
All right, so the Jets bounce back to win. What about you, Coach?
Obviously I got to go with the Patriots, I guess. Isn't Drake May a Duke guy?
Drake May's North Carolina.
North Carolina, my bad.
Whole family.
Yeah, okay. We'll see what the Patriots can bring up. At 1-6, I'm not too hopeful, but we'll see.
You're still picking the Patriots.
We'll pick the Patriots. I got to go against Lane.
Well, and not only that, the Jets haven't given you a lot of reasons to get excited about them, even with the Devontae Adams trade here last week. They're a work in progress. They're a mess. So, all right, we'll see what happens. Eagles and Bengals are next. Eagles are 4-2. They're 2-1 on the road. Bengals are 3-4. They're winless at home. This game will be at Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati, and the Bengals, Mike, 2.5-point home favorites.
We'll go with the Eagles. One of the guys that works with this, Coach Castaneda, is a big Eagles guy, and he told me he'd kick me out of the office if I didn't pick him. So I like Saquon Barkley. I think they're going to go off, and we'll go with the Eagles here.
Back-to-back wins to the Bengals. They were having a really bad record, even though they were a good team. Eagles, they won last week. Saquon breaking the ball well. Jalen Hurts is playing good football. Let's go with the Eagles over the Bengals.
All right. And by the way, speaking of the Eagles, they destroyed your Giants, and it was just a rough game all around for Giant fans.
Saquon Barkley was mic'd up in that game, and Nick Sirianni told him, you're 13 yards away from your career high. You're playing your former team. Do you want to get it? And he said no. That's kind of leadership right there, I'd say. Eagles are a really solid team, and they won that game very easily against my New York Giants, and they're going to win this week against the Bengals.
All right. Follow that up with our first layup of the week, Lane. That's the 5-2 Ravens visiting the 1-6 Browns in Cleveland. The Browns are 0-3 at home. The Ravens are 3-1 on the road. As you would expect, Baltimore 8.5-point road favorites.
Yeah, pretty easy layup right here. Let's go Cleveland. Jameis Winston, just kidding. Jameis Winston, maybe he can have some good games right here in the stretch for Cleveland, but it's not going to happen right here. The Ravens have a good defense. Zachary Orr's a good defense coordinator. Even though they gave up 31 points last week, I think it was at 24 with about a minute left in the game. So defense played well against a good Buccaneers offense last week. Ravens get it done right here against the Browns.
What do you think, Coach?
I think the Ravens are an easy pick on that one as well. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, it's too easy of a pick to not go with the Ravens.
All right, well, I'm going to make an even easier pick for you, and that's the 1-5 Titans visiting the 5-1 Lions. The Lions are 2-1 at home. The Titans are 1-2 on the road. This game, one of the larger spreads of the week, if not the biggest. It's at Ford Field in Detroit. Lions, 11-point home favorites, Coach.
I'm going to go with the Lions. I'm a huge Dan Campbell fan. Try to emulate a lot of what he does with his players and bring it to our program. So easy pick for me with the Lions.
Are you as intense as Campbell is during the course of the week?
Practice, yes. Games, no. Games, the work is done. I kind of try to let back and let our other coaches do their things, but practice we get pretty intense.
Intense is what it's all about. What about you, Lane?
Yeah, Titans, they're just not playing good football. Brian Callahan, his first year as a head coach, looks really overmatched right here. They can't figure out their quarterback situation. I'm going to go with the Lions in this one. Jake Bates, he had a great kick last week to win it. That's a guy who was playing in the UFL last year. Jared Goff played like an MVP last week. He played like a Hall of Fame type of quarterback last week that we saw from him when he was the first overall pick in 2016. So let's go with the Lions. And they got a great 2-10 running back right there.
Cardinals with a big win to beat the Chargers on Monday night. They'll visit the Dolphins. Dolphins are 2-4, 1-2 at home. The Cards are 3-4, 1-2 on the road. The Dolphins, Lane, 3.5-point favorites at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami.
So the Dolphins obviously have been really struggling since that Tua Tagovailoa injury. Tyreek Hill hasn't been seeing the ball at all. What I don't understand for the Dolphins is, why do you not have a better backup quarterback? There's a guy in the market right now, Ryan Tannehill, who played in Miami, was drafted by Miami. Why is he not their backup quarterback right now, or at least starting quarterback, until Tua comes back? Tua will come back this week, but they're not going to win this game. Cardinals got a great win last week against LA. They get another win this week, move on to 4-4.
Coach, your turn.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins at home. That's a long way to go from Phoenix to the Cardinals, to the Dolphins, and I think that's going to maybe have a little bit of jet lag. I am a big Will Hernandez fan, obviously a UTEP guy with the Cardinals. But I think that's going to be a long road trip for the Cardinals, and I'll go with the Dolphins.
Stinks also because Will got rolled up a couple of weeks ago out for the season with the knee injury, and we wish him the best and a speedy recovery there. All right, we'll follow that up then, Coach, with Falcons and Bucks. This will be a good one. Atlanta's 2-0 on the road. They're 4-3 overall. The Bucks are 2-2 at home. They're also 4-3. It's going to be at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, and Atlanta 2.5-point road favorites.
I'll go with Atlanta. I think that with Bijan Robinson, they're going to run the ball well, and we'll go with the Dirty Birds.
Lane, the Bucks have lost all their weapons. Poor Baker Mayfield. Who's he going to throw the ball to in this one?
This was a great game a few weeks ago. I'm going to answer that question in a second, but this was a great game a few weeks ago between the Buccaneers and the Falcons. The Falcons got the better of them. The Falcons' defense was terrible last week, but something interesting right here for the Falcons. They've been playing in a dome almost every single game this season. They're going to have to go down in that Florida heat, down to Raymond James Stadium. I think Baker Mayfield, whoever his targets are, whether it's Russell Gage Jr., whether it's even people out of the backfield, Rashad White, Sean Tucker, run the ball, throw the ball well with Baker Mayfield, involve your tight ends, Cade Otton. I like the Buccaneers in this one, actually, and upset over the Falcons.
Don't forget about Bucky Irving. He's going to be the number one running back for that team by the end of the season. He's playing great for them right now.
They got another rookie, Sean Tucker, playing pretty well at Syracuse.
They do. They sure do. All right, we'll talk about another 11 o'clock game right now. It's going to be the 5-2 Packers visiting the 2-5 Jags. Jacksonville is just happy to come home from London, where they've been the last few weeks. They're 2-1 at home. The Packers are 2-1 on the road. The game will be in Jacksonville at Everbank Stadium. And now that Robert Saleh is on board with the Packers with a fluid role with the team. According to Coach Matt LaFleur, he was at practice. He joins the staff, makes it a little more interesting, Lane, with Green Bay 4-point favorites on the road here.
Green Bay doesn't even need them. They're such a good team already. Green Bay had a great win last week. Pretty much a rough start against Texans. Jordan Love throwing 2 early picks. They rebounded from that. Jordan Love's playing great football. I thought Trevor Lawrence played well last week up in London, but Jordan Love's a pure passer. He's playing great football. MVP candidate. Packers move on 6-2.
All right, Coach.
I'll go with the Packers as well. I'm not sold on Trevor Lawrence. His yards are pretty good. Touchdown to interception ratio is decent, but I'm just not sold on the team, so we'll go with the Packers.
Next up will be the Colts and the Texans. Another good one here from Houston's NRG Stadium. The Texans are undefeated at home. They're 3-0, 5-2 overall. The Colts are 1-2 on the road, 4-3 overall. Houston, Coach, a 5-point home favorite.
I'm going to go with Houston at home. My youngest son, Brian, was born in Houston. He's a big Texan fan. And so I'm going to go with Houston at home. Big fan of C.J. Stroud. I think he's going to get it done at home.
What about you, Lane?
I'm going to agree with Coach on this one. I'm going to go with the Texans. I think the Colts, their record's a little bit deceiving. They're not that good, although I think they're a better team with Joe Flacco at quarterback and Anthony Richardson. But let's go with the Texans over the Colts. C.J. Stroud rebounds after that 86 yards passing last week.
How do you see this one? Actually, we got the 2 o'clock game starting, and I just looked at the time. Let's do this. We'll take the time out. We'll come back. We'll finish all our games up and get through the NFL week with Lane Frank from Schoolyard Sports and special guest picker this week, Mike Pry, head coach of the Coronado T-Birds. We'll come back. Final countdown. Sports Talk continues. 600 ESPN El Paso. Out on the show today, my thanks to all of our guests joining us either on the Longhorn Distributing Hotline or here with us in the River Oaks Properties Schoolyard Sports Studios. Lane, let's talk about River Oaks Properties for just a second. They're building all over El Paso. They have some of the nicest shopping centers anywhere in the city, and yet there are still brand new shopping centers, older centers that they have a part of that even have openings right now. You can actually get into a River Oaks Property shopping center in El Paso.
Yeah, maybe some of these centers can help out for maybe some NIL money for UTEP.
You think?
Good plug.
Boy,
get a tenant to do that. Maybe get Dave's Hot Chicken, sponsor UTEP football.
You think
through
you can,
River Oaks.
Do you think you can get in on the pitch for that? Would you mind trying to be the UTEP NIL pitch person?
I'm all in for UTEP NIL, so let's hope so.
All right, I like that idea. That sounds good to me. Very nice. All right, from River Oaks Properties over to Mr. Schoolyard Sports himself, it's Lane Frank who's going to continue our picks with the late games. Starting off with the Saints and Chargers. Chargers are 3-3, 1-1 at home. The Saints are 2-5, 1-2 on the road. This game will be at SoFi in Inglewood, and the Chargers are 7-point home favorites, Lane.
Let's have a compromise right here. Okay, so Michigan has 4 wins in the year. The Chargers have 3. They're both having bad years. What if we just say, Harbaugh, come back to Michigan, get rid of the NFL. I don't think that's going to happen, though. Chargers win this week. A little interesting thing right here. Justin Herbert has 6 touchdowns and 1 interception on the year. I feel like he still struggled a little bit, so I'm going to go with Chargers because Saints are so injured, but let's go Chargers.
What about you, Coach?
I'm going Houdat, Saints Nation all the way. Hometown, Brian Young coaching for the Saints. Andrus grad, UTEP grad, my old college roommate. I'm actually heading down there in a couple of weeks to see a game, so we're going to go Saints.
I like the fact that you're picking with your heart.
I've got to.
It works.
And a little bit of fear factor.
Yeah, that's true, too. I'd still be afraid of Brian Young after all these years. I really would.
Yeah, he's nuts.
So I'm
What's
telling
up with
you.
Brian Young?
What's that?
Before my time, what's up with Brian Young?
Brian was an amazing player at UTEP.
Okay.
Intense, had a terrific pro career, and then when his pro career ended, went into coaching. He's been coaching with the Saints ever since.
That's great.
Moved to New Orleans as a player and then never left. Has his family there, and I would hope one day maybe we could get Brian back to El Paso. Permanently.
There's been some opportunities, but the Saints organization has really taken care of him. He's really, talk about loyalty. That guy is loyal like a retriever, and I don't know if he's ever going to leave the Saints.
Yeah,
he's extremely happy.
I believe it. Bills and Seahawks will be next up, 2:05 on Fox. Bills are 5-2. They're 2-2 on the road. The Seahawks are an interesting team up and down this year. They're 4-3, 2-2 at home. It's at Lumen Field in Seattle. And, Coach, Buffalo, 3-point road favorites.
I'll go with the Seahawks at home. Little questions on Geno Smith and his record as far as his touchdown to interception ratio, but I'm going to go with the hometown Seahawks.
Lane?
I'm going to go with my Michigan guy, Mike McDowell, now the head coach of Seattle Seahawks. Kind of revived that Michigan football program, being their defense coordinator in 2021, going over the Ravens. Now Seahawks, I like them to lock down this Bills offense right here. Seattle.
All right. We'll follow that up with the 4-3 Broncos hosting the 1-6 Panthers. It's been a rough year for Carolina. 1-3 on the road. Meanwhile, the Broncos are 4-3, 1-2 at home. It's at Empower Field in Mile High in Denver. And the Broncos, 10-point favorites over the Panthers.
Say what you want about Bo Nix, his stats, his highlights. They're winning football games, and he's their quarterback, and, that takes a big part in it. So let's go Broncos over the Panthers.
Coach.
I'm dead on with Lane. I think the Broncos are going to take it. I'm a big fan of Sean Payton, and like Lane said, Bo just wins. Bo knows Bo.
So does Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs are 6-0, 3-0 on the road. The Raiders are 2-5, 1-2 at home. Yet Kansas City also 10-point road favorites here, Coach.
Got to go with the Chiefs. My daughter's a Swiftie. She loves Travis Kelce, so I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
I thought the Raiders did a terrible job this offseason hiring Antonio Pierce. I was a little bit on the fence about it, but, that's a guy who got the interim job, didn't do an incredible job in his way as the interim. I don't know if he was qualified to be a head coach yet, and he certainly hasn't figured out their quarterback situation anyway. Dave Ziegler, they fired him as their GM. They got Tom Telesco as their GM now, came over from the Chargers. But this quarterback situation for the Raiders is just terrible. You got Gardner Minshew, who's at best a backup quarterback. You got Aiden O'Connell, who's hurt. You got Tom Brady as an owner now. Why not go out? Why not get Matthew Stafford the deadline? They're not going to do that this week, though. Chiefs, say we want about Mahomes. I say it every week. They do enough. They get the win, and that's what's happening right here. Chiefs 7-0.
All right. By the way, I love that hire in Vegas, and I'll tell you why.
I really don't.
Let me tell you why I loved it at the time. I thought that when Pierce took over last year, he got the guys to play for him. And sometimes
a lot of coaches can do that.
Yeah, but when you're playing better football towards the end of the year.
Yeah, but they were playing dumb football.
Last year at the end
I
with
thought
Pierce,
so.
I thought they were playing pretty good, and the players wanted him. So it's tough sometimes to go away from that when the players want you. And unfortunately, it just hasn't worked this year. And by the way, Antonio Pierce, former Giant. He's a good Giant back in the day.
Steve, we're not talking about I'm upset with the
Before
Giants.
you were
we're
born.
not going to talk about the Giants.
Oh, don't worry. They're the end of the
Steve,
year.
all my football teams are terrible right now except
Yes.
Duke football. I mean, maybe I'm a Duke football fan now. 6-1.
Are you flipping?
Maybe.
Okay. Wow.
Michigan's playing terrible, so we'll have to see.
Stay the course, Lane.
Breaking
Stay the
news.
course.
Breaking news. Lane is considering flipping. Okay. Bears and Commanders are next. This is going to be a fun game. Bears are 4-2, 0-2 on the road, coming off the bye week. Commanders are 5-2, 3-0 at home. It's in Landover at Northwest Stadium. And Lane, Chicago, 3-point road favorites.
I'm pretty upset this isn't the Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels matchup because Jaden Daniels probably won't play. I think they're still a really good team with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. I'm going to go with the Commanders over the Bears.
Okay, what about you, Coach?
I'm going to take the Bears on the road. I'm a Caleb Williams fan. Been a fan of the Bears since the 85 defense. So I'm going to go with the Bears on the road.
Okay, next up, Cowboys, 49ers. Cowboys also coming off the bye. 3-3, perfect on the road. 49ers, 3-4, 2-2 at home. It's at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara. Coach, San Francisco, 4-point home favorites.
Got to go with the Niners. I don't know if I'm going to get out of the parking lot if I go against the Cowboys, but I'm going to go with the Niners at home. I think they're going to get the victory.
Don't worry, you've got Lane as a security. You'll be just fine.
Sweet.
Lane, what about you? What do you think's going to happen?
We've got a split crowd in El Paso. I think there's a good mix of 49ers fans, good mix of Raiders fans, obviously Cowboys fans. But I'm not going to take the Cowboys in this game. I don't care how injured the 49ers are. I don't care if Deebo Samuel has pneumonia. I don't care if Brandon Ayuk has a torn ACL. I don't care if Brock Purdy can't see over the offensive line. I don't care if Trent Williams can't go a game without punching somebody. Let's go with the 49ers over the Cowboys.
That is a great analysis right there. And you just did that off the cuff. There wasn't even a script. You're just perfect.
There's never a script, Steve.
Final game, Monday night. Your 2-5 New York Giants.
Now, we're not saying your anymore. You tell me don't say your. And we're definitely not doing that here.
Good.
With the Giants playing terrible.
Now, let me tell you this. If that's the case, you can't go back on your word, and when they're playing good, call them your New York Giants. You can't do it. We're either all in or out. What are we doing? Are we in or out on this your stuff?
We're definitely out on the New York Giants.
Got it. All right. The New York Giants, 2-5 overall, 2-1 on the road, visiting the 5-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. 2-1 at home. It's back at Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium. They beat the Jets last Sunday night. How are they going to handle the Giants as 6.5-point favorites? Tell me, Lane.
So about 5 years ago, Russell Wilson, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, he said, I want to maintain my body. I want to play in the NFL for about 10 more years, whatever it might be. I want to have that Brady-like career. He had a really rough patch in Denver. Even last season, I think he played pretty well. He looked great on Sunday night, Steve. I know against your Jets, he looked incredible. Had about 30 fantasy points. I know we're not thinking about that here, but Russell Wilson played some great football. Najee Harris ran the ball really well. They were winning games with Justin Fields. Their weapons just weren't getting involved. Now with Russell Wilson, that's going to change, and they get the win right here over the Giants.
Coach.
I'm going to go with the Steelers. Coach Tomlin, Najee Harris, playing at home, I'm going to go with the Steelers.
Good news. You each differed on 5 games, which means we don't need a tiebreaker, because that means somebody is going to be a winner when this is over. We are not going to have a tie.
It's probably going to be Lane.
I don't know. I mean, what do
do
you think, Coach?
I think this is the best football mind we've gone up against all year.
I think so, too. And he had good rationale for all of his decisions. I feel pretty good about this.
I feel pretty good, too. We've gone up against a few Coronado people this year. Lou Romano, Joe Golding, a few Coronado people. And
don't call Lou Romano a Coronado person.
We can call Lou Romano a Coronado person.
I don't know what he is, but he's not his kids go to Coronado, but that's where it ends. I mean, Lou...
He helps out the baseball team.
He does. He definitely does. And
We'll adopt Lou.
You think so?
Yeah, he's our announcer as well, and he's been good to me, so we'll adopt Lou.
Is he worthy of adopting? You think he is, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if he's listening... Lou, let's see if how that goes down. Okay, I mentioned Eastwood this weekend.
Yes, sir.
It's the biggest game for now, but how many games left for you?
Guaranteed 3. So we've got Eastwood, Socorro, and Eastlake. 3 games I think we can win out and be sitting nice in the playoffs.
How was homecoming?
Good. It was a lot of fun. I don't know if you saw it, but the Border Patrol had the football and the game coin and the flag that they dropped in, so they did a really good job. And we had the entire ball. Basically, we got the ball back with 2 minutes left in the third quarter and gave it back to Montwood with about a minute left in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
So we had about a little over a 10-minute drive, and it was just 2 tight ends, 2 backs, and lineman football. Let's go.
How much fun has this been for you at your alma mater?
It's a blast. It's a blast because we have great kids. We've got kids like Lane and the Neesons and the Deitches and kids that I've graduated with their parents, and now I get to see their kids grow up. So that's been the most fun for me.
Lane, as we wrap things up, World Series, Yanks, Dodgers, starts Friday. What's going to happen?
Series will probably go 6 games. I think Mookie Betts will struggle against that New York crowd. Ohtani will win MVP, and the Dodgers get done.
Okay, so Dodgers in 6.
Dodgers in 6.
All right. And will Ohtani be the MVP, you said?
Yep, Ohtani will win MVP.
Okay. Who's going to carry the Yankees in 6? Will it be Soto? Will it be Judge? Who's it going to be?
I think Soto's going to get to a breaking point where he plays well. Nobody else does, and then he becomes a New York Met in the offseason.
Oh, now is this wishful thinking as a Mets fan?
I don't think so. I think Steve Cohen's ready for it.
How much is it going to cost?
$600 million.
You think?
I think so. I think Juan Soto took a great gamble on himself. He was in his 3rd year with Washington. They offered him a $400 million deal. He said no, struggled for 2 years with the Padres, had a great year with the Yankees. Now Juan Soto going to get a massive deal.
What if Cohen and Steinbrenner both offer $600 million? Where does he go?
I think Cohen goes $700.
Oh, so you think Cohen's
really
going to you think he's going to outbid him no matter what?
Cohen has nothing else to do except pay baseball players, and he's going to do that.
I love that. Hey, listen, great to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
Great to be here. Thanks, Steve.
He's Lane Frank. My thanks to Coach Pry and all of our guests joining us. We'll do it again right back here tomorrow. For Alberto Urueta, I'm Steve Kaplowitz. So long, everybody.